This is the FlipNerd.com Expert Real Estate Investing Show, the show for real estate investors, whether you're a veteran or brand new. I'm your host, Mike Hambright, and each week I bring you a new expert guest that will share their knowledge and lessons with you. If you're excited about real estate investing, believe in personal responsibility, and taking control of your life and financial destiny, you're in the right place. This is episode number 314, and my guest is Sensei Gilliland. Sensei is not only a martial arts expert, he's a real estate investing expert that's been involved in thousands of transactions and teaches others how to build real estate investing businesses. The significance of the fact that he is a highly accomplished black belt is that he's learned a lot of discipline in the martial arts space and has brought that into his real estate investing career over the past 20 plus years. Many investors fail because they never build a fundamental business that allows them to scale and allows them to operate a business that makes money month after month and year after year. Does that sound familiar? Have you maybe fallen into this trap? Hopefully not. But in today's show, it's packed with great information on how to build a real estate investing business that lasts. We talk about the importance of defining your focus. We talk about getting the right amount of education, coaching, and things like that. Things that are actually very important, not to put them down, but at some point you have to take massive action as well. It's obviously an important part of the mix. How to establish your systems and processes, building your brand, and how to do consistent marketing so that you have leads coming in and you're actually doing deals. You do not want to miss today's show. Please help me welcome Sensei Gilliland. Sensei, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Mike. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So my first question before we get started here is, what level black belt are you now? Have you advanced since you were on the show 230 episodes ago?
Are we talking about in the ring or are we talking about in real estate?
Yeah. I guess real estate.
No, I actually, in martial arts, I do hold a first degree in Kyokushin, which I earned in Japan. I hold a 6th degree in Shotokan, Goju, Shidoru, and Wadaru, and then I also got a black belt in Judo as well.
That's awesome.
Not to mention, I've always done boxing and kickboxing my whole life, but they don't hold belts.
Yeah. But I'm excited to have you on, and I know, and you have been on the show before. We were just talking about it right before we started recording. This is show number 314. The last time you were on was show number 79, so I'm doing some math in my head. That's a lot of episodes ago, over 200 episodes ago, and over 2 years ago, actually.
Back.
What's that?
What took so long to have me back?
I don't know. I've missed you, and I'm glad we're together now. So,
yes.
But yeah, I've always been impressed by, because I told you I have a son that's in Taekwondo, and probably the best, and he's 9 years old, and he's a kind of entry level black belt. But one of the things that the reason my wife and I like him to attend there, and he acts very differently there than he does at home. Unfortunately, we're like, how do we get that home? But there's a lot of discipline, a lot about respect, a lot about courtesy that's kind of taught there. Like, he would never talk back to the person that teaches him there. He probably talks back a little bit at home, but anyway, I think that there's a lot of discipline that can be learned there, and obviously a big part of real estate investing is discipline to just kind of do the same thing over and over again, mostly, right?
Yeah.
But
and that's our tagline, black belt investors, discipline investing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, today I know we're going to talk about building a business and really kind of get into some detail about the right way to build a business for the long term, because you've been doing this for over 20 years, and you've got a lot to share with listeners today. But before we get started, why don't you just take a couple minutes and, for those that don't know you, maybe share your background.
Absolutely. I started just like most other people. You go to you watch an infomercial, you go down to a hotel and you listen to the sales pitch, and it makes you just get all pumped up. And the next thing you know, you're signing up for this. Back then, they didn't call them boot camps. They called them a seminar. So you're signing up for multiple seminars. And I did that back in late 1994, early 1995. And so my intentions was really to buy, fix, and flip real estate. Understand the concept of buy something low, improve the property, build the sweat equity, and then sell it and make a profit. Made sense to me because I was already in business and I was buying, my materials low and selling them high.
Right.
So with that, I took that course and I spent $32,000 back in 1995, and with that, that's a lot of money. In fact, Let me tell you something, Mike. This is crazy, okay? Because in 1995, I was dating my wife. We got engaged. We got pregnant. We moved in with each other. We got married. We bought our first home. I rehabbed that home. I did a cash-out refi and bought my very first fix and flip in Fort Myers, Florida, while living here in California.
Wow.
Now, that's a lot in 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's kind of how I roll.
Well,
So,
and when you do that stuff early on, if you kind of immerse yourself in something, you learn so much faster, right?
you do, and you know what? Technology obviously has changed a lot over the last 20 years, right? I mean, back then, I was just kind of hoping and praying because I didn't have any more money to go back and visit the property and see how the construction crews were working. I was just hoping and praying is what I was doing.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, they would send me a Polaroid of showing me some progress.
Yeah.
Polaroid.
Polaroid, that's funny. They would probably physically mail it to you.
They would. It would physically
Yeah.
because we had internet back in 1995. We had email, but we didn't have digital cameras.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
they would physically mail it to me. And
Yep.
here's the cool thing, my wife was stressed out. Completely understand. I mean, we've got a lot going on, and all the money that we had in our savings account is now into this property, and so there's a lot of stress that went on. However, putting faith in front of fear was a huge play point for me.
Yeah.
9 months later, I ended up receiving a FedEx envelope, ripped it open, found a check in there with a little over $9,000 in profits, and I
Yeah.
was basically scarred for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a big thing.
Hooked.
Hooked. Well, I always say, it's like me and Pringles. Once I pop, I can't stop. So I had to go out there and buy more properties.
Well, and the interesting thing about real estate investing is, there's a lot of people that are new that want to get started. They don't get started because they're anticipating all the problems or troubles or whatever. And you get to a point to where after you've done a certain number of deals, you have just complete confidence. You're like, hey, there's going to be problems, but I'll figure it out. And even myself, after doing hundreds of houses, I have new problems all the time. And people were like, I coach a bunch of people. So they come to me and they say, well, has this ever happened to you? And like scared of something. And I'm like, that's never happened to me, but here's exactly what I would do if it did. So it's not so much like having the experience to fix something that's happened before. That's part of it. But part of it is just, hey, that's a new problem to me, but here's exactly how to handle it,
Right. And here's the thing, Mike. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we can always expect that we're going to lose money. I don't care if you own a liquor store, someone's going to steal a beer. If you own a merchandise shop, someone's going to knock the glass off the shelf and break. You're going to lose
Right.
money. It's part of it. But when it comes to real estate, the beautiful thing about real estate and the beautiful thing about martial arts is I can never learn it all in a lifetime. I like the challenges, so I don't look at it as a problem.
Right.
I look at it as, wow, here's a new challenge for me. Okay, this is different.
Yeah.
And build onto my arsenal of education.
Yep. That's and a lot of it's attitude, right? Just
Yep.
knowing how to deal with stuff, knowing that there's going to be problems and or issues or challenges, and I'll just deal with them along the way.
And if I can't fix the problem, then I'm just going to choke them out.
Yep. That's funny. So let's get this show started today. So we're going to talk about building a business, and I'm just going to kind of spell out what we're going to talk about here. In the first part of the show, we're going to talk about the importance of education and having the right level of education, but obviously you got to take action at some point. We're going to talk about, having kind of mentoring and coaching there for support and really defining your product. I think a lot of real estate investors get overwhelmed with the ways there are to make money. There's a lot of ways to make money, but I think for most people, you've got to have some focus there so that you don't get spread so thin that you're just, flailing, right? And then in the second part of the show, the taking action segment, I want to tell everybody you're going to share some great tips on kind of business operations and systems and kind of setting that up and branding, how to brand yourself so that you're not, people can, they know who you are. You get customers that come back around because you're memorable, right? And then talking about marketing. And we were talking a little bit up front about how I wanted to put all this in the taking action segment because if you're a real estate investor, if you're a successful real estate investor and you have a business, you're really a marketer, right? It's marketing and operations, and real estate just happens to be the widget that we have chosen. But the doing deal stuff is just a subset of actually kind of having a business operation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's kind of jump into the part one here. We're talking about education and then mentoring and coaching and why those things are important.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I got a lot of people that come to me and they want to learn real estate investing. And their eyes kind of gloss over a little bit because they're not sure if they should get into rehabbing or wholesaling, if they should get into some sort of purchase options. maybe it's short sales, maybe it's getting into mobile home parks, creative finance. There's so much out there. It becomes distraction. And so with that, I think it's very easy to figure out. And so I asked them, what is it that you need? Not what you want. We all want riches. We all want financial security. But what is it that you need? Do you need a paycheck or do you need a portfolio? Because if you need a portfolio, that tells me that you have a cash machine's up and running. You got businesses and you need to shovel that money over to build your wealth side. But if you're that person that really needs to have a consistent paycheck coming in, then we need to move over to the buy and sell side of real estate. So now we got to kind of dissect that.
Yeah.
You have some money to work with. That means, can we go out and buy properties, fix them up and sell them? Are you lacking funds? Maybe you have the money, but you don't want to use your money, and we can maybe default over to wholesaling where you can flip properties without the use of cash or credit.
Right.
And so we really need to kind of tear it down and have a little bit of tunnel vision in regards to the niche that you can find some passion for, because if you don't have the passion, you're not going to follow through. And then the niche that can ultimately get you that payday or that financial security.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, a lot of people probably get hung up. You've probably seen this too, because I know you coach and mentor a lot of folks. Mm-hmm. They get so hung up early on without ever getting started on the tactics of what they'll do, right? Instead of setting a strategy as to what is it that you want to accomplish.
Right.
Because I think it's easier for us. I hear new people like, I want to buy 100 houses a year. Or, I want to do what you've done, or what this person's done. It's like, well, maybe you don't. Like, you don't even necessarily know what they've done. Like, on a high level, you see that they do a lot of volume, but maybe you don't have to do a lot of volume to achieve your goals. Or maybe there's another way to do it, right? It's time for a quick announcement. We'll be back to the show in less than 30 seconds. PassiveRental.com is your source for turnkey, done-for-you rental properties. If you'd like to be an investor and not a landlord, please visit PassiveRental.com to learn how to purchase cash-flowing, professionally managed rental properties in the hottest rental markets across the country. We can also help connect you with financing for your next property. Invest the easy way today and get started by visiting PassiveRental.com. Maybe you don't have to do a lot of volume to achieve your goals, or maybe there's another way to do it, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think a lot of people just look into the vanity of real estate investing,
right,
because that's just portrayed on infomercials and
right,
books and things like that. Hey, it's work. Real estate investing is work.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
It's profitable, but it is work. So here's the thing that I come across that's a little bit frustrating, not so much for me, but it becomes frustrating for aspiring entrepreneurs in real estate investing, and they just give up. And it goes back to kind of what I was just talking about earlier. Let's say, for instance, martial arts. People come to me and say, you know what, Sensei, I want to learn karate. I want to learn jiu-jitsu. I want to learn MMA. I want to learn boxing. That sounds fantastic. But you know what ends up happening? If you learn a little bit of everything, you become a jack of all trades and a master of none. Mm-hmm. And that's where I find a lot of real estate investors, they go out and buy these big packages, and they're taking that short sale class, that foreclosure class, that REO class, that rehab class. And okay, so they get a little bit of knowledge about everything, but just not enough to where that rubber meets the road so they can take off.
Right.
It's kind of like, who's been to Vegas before? You've been to Vegas, Mike? I know you.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, yeah.
Yep.
So me, I'm not a gambler, right? But I love the buffets. So I'll go hit the buffet. Do they give you a little tiny plate, or do they give you a huge plate? They give you a huge plate, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, your eyes are looking at all these different things, like, holy smokes, everything looks so good. It's kind of like a buffet of real estate, right? So you take a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and a little bit of this. Next thing you know, you're getting a bicep workout because your plate is so heavy with food. You drop it on the table, and you're like, holy smokes, a lot of food, but I can't wait to dig in. And you sample a little bit of everything, and while you're sampling, those foods start to mesh together, and they're not as appealing anymore. And what do you do with it? You take that plate of food, or you take that plate of real estate courses, and you throw it all away.
Yeah.
And then you go back to where, what is it that I need to be able to get it going?
Yep. That's a great analogy. Yeah. So let's talk about, having a coach and a mentor, which I coach and mentor some folks. I know you do too. And some folks you either kind of get guru'd, right? You get sold something that doesn't help you, or you're kind of anti coaching and mentoring. But we say this all the time on the show, actually, that the best athletes in the world have multiple coaches. And so
Sure.
and I have mentors that I look up to and people that I seek out for advice, and I'm sure you do too. Even though a lot of people come to you for that, you have people that you seek out advice from, right? So kind of set the record straight on what's the right level of kind of coaching and mentoring for folks.
Yeah, there is a difference between coaching and mentoring, and that mentor is the one that's going to take you under the wing and kind of teach you the ropes. The coach is going to sit in the corner of the ring, massage your shoulders, tell you what you're doing good and what you're doing wrong, and push you back out in the fight again, right?
Yeah.
So with that, you're absolutely right. You should have multiple coaches. You got to start with one. But I would say if someone's going to learn about, let's just say wholesaling for an example, make sure that you've got a coach that is very versatile and experienced in wholesaling. I would also say, especially if in your own state. See, I can tell you right now, California is one of the most difficult states to do real estate in. Yeah. I don't care if you're buying rental properties or if you're rehabbing or you're wholesaling. It's one of the difficult states. And then if we've got someone coming outside of the state into California, there's California laws that go along with wholesaling that most don't even know about.
Right.
And so you really need someone kind of in your own backyard, I would say. So that way there may be a time where you can connect physically and not just over the phone. The other thing is that when it comes to coaching, I believe that you need if you're going to be a real estate coach, you need a real estate coach that's going to specialize in the niche that you're trying to accomplish. You need a business coach, because to learn business operations, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a real estate coach. So one of my best friends and long time, I don't even want to say coach mentor. He is, but he's not, because we're friends. But the guy makes $50,000 net per day. So wow. I learn business operations through him, and in exchange, I handle all of his real estate for him. Wow. Then you got a speaking coach, because a lot of people don't think, well, I don't need a speaking coach. Well, I think you do. If you're going to go out there and pitch your product, and if you're going to make sales, or you're there to help someone, you should know the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
So with that, it's important that you do connect on a regular basis. That may be weekly, that may be bi-weekly, maybe once a month, depending on where that person is in their business.
Sure.
But all in all, you never, ever get rid of your coaches unless they're not doing the job, and then you fire and you hire another one. Think about it. Yep. LeBron James, Tiger Woods, those guys all have multiple coaches.
Sure.
They're the best.
Right.
They're the best. And if they're the best, a lot of people, look in real estate and think, you're the best. Why do you need a coach? No, because, there's an old saying in the Bible. Of course it's old, right? It's in the Bible. It says, iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. And so it's important that we surround ourselves with people that have a knowledge that's much more grand than our knowledge. We don't want to be that big fish in a small pond.
Yeah. And in my experience too, because even some of the best real estate investors, people that do really well with real estate investing, depending on what state you're in and what your exit strategies are, they might be doing a deal or two a month. Like it's not that you have to do 20 deals a month to be successful, right? So it depends on what your goals are, and it depends on a lot of things. But what happens is, it's not like you're buying houses every single day. What happens is you kind of go through these ups and downs, right? Peaks and valleys. And in my experience, it's easy for a lot of real estate investors to pick up bad habits.
Yes.
As the market shifts, you're trying to do stuff the way you used to do it, or you're in denial, or you say, well, it's real competitive now, so I just need to pay more for houses, and then you're doing stuff so thin that you have no margin for error, and then when the market shifts back, you keep doing that, or we just pick up bad habits that every once in a while you need to talk to somebody to say, kind of tell you, you need to stop doing that, or right?
You bring up a good point, because look, real estate investing has always been one of those highlighted careers that people can pull themselves from rock bottom to riches, right?
Yeah.
And with that, you've got a lot of real estate coaches and mentors out there that are fairly new. They sound great, but they're fairly new. They really haven't done the job. They maybe done one or two deals, and now they're coaching and mentors. So I'm going to tell you that anybody that's looking to get a coach or a mentor really needs to do their research, not just get all excited and swipe a credit card and get a coach. Yep. They really need to do the research to make sure and vet that coach, that they are able to provide the services that you can provide. So like, for instance, myself, I'm just going to use myself as an example. I've gone through 3 recessions now in my real estate business. I got started in the early 90s, 2000s, and then our greatest recession. And I made more money during our greatest recession than I did during the Roaring '20s. I thought I was doing extremely well back in 2005. I'm like, wow, look at me, kind of a rock star.
Right.
And then everything falls apart. And 2008 goes a little quiet, right? Goes a little quiet. But having the versatility in real estate, meaning that I'm a wholesaler at heart, that is my foundation, is wholesaling. And audience, please understand, wholesaling is not just about assigning contracts or double closings. It's really about making your money on the purchase, not on the sale, getting
Right.
properties at a deeply discounted profit margin. And so with that, you can be a wholesaler that's assigning contracts, doing double closings. You can be buying, fixing, and flipping, and you can be buying and holding as a wholesaler. But then there's another component that goes with wholesaling that's the complete opposite of wholesaling, and that's purchase options. And I'm talking about lease options, contract for deeds, land installment contracts, subject to transactions. There's quite a few different strategies within purchase options. And you know what? They actually become the yin-yang of real estate. They balance each other out because the wholesaling side is all about equity positions.
Right.
And the purchase option side means that we can now flip or buy and hold properties that lack equity, that maybe break even equity, or even upside down in equity. And with that, as the market cycles shift and change, whether it's the economy or real estate, knowing these two strategies will allow you to roll through the punches and become profitable at any given time.
Yeah, and if you have somebody that's been through some of those cycles, they can tell, you can kind of plan for, because I was the same way. In 2008, 2009, 2010, we were crushing it, right? But what you learn is, hey, I know that's now what you learn is like, hey, I'm not just waiting for that cycle. You start to say, I'm going to plan for that cycle, because when that comes back around, it's going to be, heyday again, right? So,
so wholesalers at heart are like, yes, a recession is coming.
Yeah.
We don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't
Right.
want to lose their home and stuff. But that is a time where your true investors go out and harvest the crops with real estate.
Yep. Well, let's. I want to ask you. I forgot to tell you this. We're going to talk about kind of defining your product in just a second, but I forgot to tell you we're going to do this part. I have a question we asked on social media. Hey, we asked people, hey, I'm interviewing Sensei today. What questions do you have? And I think you know who Brad Weber is, because he kind of referenced you. I'm paraphrasing a little bit what he said, but this is his question. He basically said, do you feel like you could get dropped into any market and be successful there? And if so, what's the secret sauce? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hands down. In fact, when I teach real estate investors, I have a program that I've had for the last 16 years called the Master's Program, and that's exactly what we do. We can drop into any town USA and make it happen. So we kind of take a step back, and who's our most elite teams out there? It's the Navy SEALs, right? Yeah. So before they get into a certain field or location, you do a little bit of pre-planning, we set it up, we get into any market, and I don't care if it's from low income to moderate income to working class to upper income. We can know exactly what to do because our strategy doesn't change. The only thing that tends to change a little bit is the numbers. But if you know your target market, whether it's for products, your target market in regards to your clientele of sellers and buyers, and you can stick to your disciplines, hands down, you can take over a market.
Yeah. And so talk a little bit about defining your product. So we talked about this beforehand. I know people, I'm sure you do too, that say they'll do anything. I'll buy a car wash. I'll buy houses. I'll buy whatever. I'll buy land. Yeah. And they find some way to do it. And they kind of are proud of that badge of like, well, I'll buy anything. Right. Then there's some people that are like, I only do single family. Like, truthfully, I know a bunch of people that do commercial, and I've bought hundreds of houses, and I know I could figure commercial out if I wanted to over time. Right. But I don't know anything about commercial for the most part, right? Because I do single family houses, and there's a lot of people that that tend to do the best tend to have some sort of specialty. Right. But talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on kind of defining that, and the importance of, in terms of building your business, the importance of defining what products do you sell.
Yeah, I think that's really important to understand your products. I mean, Costco wouldn't be in the top 10 businesses out there if they didn't understand their products, and not only understand their products, but at the price point they get it, and they only mark it up 15%, and they stay to that discipline. That's how they're able to dominate all the other wholesaler retailers that are out there, right? So we got to take the same approach in the real estate business. Now, for me, I'm like you, Mike. I'm not, I'm not the guy out there pushing commercial. We sell commercial. I have a really good understanding about commercial, but my product is 1 to 4 units, which I call my property platform.
Yep.
It's 1 to 4 units. Now, why did I choose 1 to 4 units would be the question. Well, there's pros and cons that go with every product that's out there, and you should know at least your top 10 FAQs for all your products so that you can answer them properly when you're making a sale or a purchase. But going for 1 to 4 units, look, I'm into paydays. I like knowing that I see COE on my email, which is close of escrow, or PayPal jumps up on my phone saying I've been paid, because as a wholesaler, I take a lot of payment by PayPal, So with that, 1 to 4 units, the reason why I've chosen that property platform is because, number one, they're the most affordable. A house is more affordable than any other piece of property with the exception of possibly land. But affordability is not the only key factor. Sure. It's affordable in regards to an investor or a home buyer coming in and being able to get the financing. So financing is extremely flexible. You can still buy properties with financing with 0 money down, or you can go FHA at 3.5% down. So flexibility in financing is there. You've got the desirability factor, the desirability of price point, the desirability of rental price point. You got the desirability of people wanting to live in a home as a family, or you got the renter that wants to have that family in a home versus an apartment complex.
Sure.
So it's just really the lower hanging fruit. And that means if it's a lower hanging fruit and I've got the affordability factors and the desirability factors in there, that means I can push and sell more of that product than I can of a commercial building.
Right.
Think about it, Mike. If you were to buy a $100,000 house and lender comes along and says, you know what, as an investor, you need to put down 20%. That's $20,000, right? Okay, that's a little bit easier on the palate than going over to a commercial building that's maybe $1 million and saying, you know what, you're going to be required to put down 30%, and that's $300,000.
Right.
See, there's the affordability factor.
Yep.
So, and with that property being so low as a house, for an example, it's also the exit strategy. I'm able to liquidate houses much faster than I can liquidate that $1 million apartment complex.
Absolutely.
Goes back to the affordability factor again.
Right. Yeah. And I think the importance in terms of like building your business is just to know what you will or you won't do. So there are things in my business, and I don't get me wrong, I get shiny object syndrome often.
Sure.
But there are some things that when I hear commercial, I'm interested because I hear some friends that do a lot of commercial investing or buy apartments. I'm like, there's some bigger paydays there and there's a lot of opportunity. But usually when somebody's like, hey, are you interested in an apartment? I'm like, it would take me so long to even know how to evaluate this deal that I'm either just going to like say, well, here's who to send this to because he's interested. But you just got to turn it off. I mean, it's really important to kind of have some focus, especially as you're getting started. Like you can't just be willing to do any sort of investment because, like you said, you're going to be, a master of nothing if you spread yourself too thin.
Simplicity is key in my business.
Yeah.
And I find that because I own multiple businesses and I try to follow the same strategy of simplicity, knowing your product, because then eventually you're going to want to hire, employees and such, and it's just easier for them to learn. And everybody knows, hey, I'm going to go to Mike because he does 1 to 4 units. He's after houses.
Yep. Awesome. Well, let's jump into the second part of the show here, the Taking Action segment. Thanks for joining us up to this point in the show. The second half of our show is restricted to only FlipNerd Pro and Elite members and only accessible on flipnerd.com. If you're not a Pro or Elite member yet, you can upgrade your account in about 1 minute by visiting flipnerd.com/upgrade. Depending on membership level, you'll get access to off-market properties real time, including real-time email and text alerts for new properties listed in your market. You'll get access to hundreds of full-length expert interviews, and Elite members get access to the FlipNerd Lab, which includes detailed masterclass trainings, 2 live webinars a month where you can interact with the leaders in the industry, and access to our Elite Mastermind group where you can interact with hundreds of the top real estate investors in America. Build relationships with those that are actually operating successful real estate investing businesses. By visiting flipnerd.com/upgrade, you'll learn much more about our membership options. And once you've upgraded your membership, come on back and listen to the rest of this show. Wish you could watch or listen to more flipnerd.com shows? You can. As a premium member, you can get access to the full length of hundreds of past shows at flipnerd.com/shows. Or hear us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play. While you're there, please subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you like what you hear, we'd really love a positive review. It's the ultimate high five for us. Show us some love by subscribing and giving us a great review today.